Alright, discussion topic. Should World of Warcraft have microtransactions? In my opinion, it's kind of complicated. It really depends on what kind of microtransactions they have. Because some of y'all, from what I've seen in comments, are kind of spoiled and have only ever played Blizzard games and no Blizzard microtransactions and just think those are bad automatically. Or, I don't know, have only ever played, games by good companies. Well, I mean, can you really call Blizzard a good company, really? I have some opinions on microtransactions. Like, overall, it really depends on what kind they're doing. Like, there are harmless levels of microtransactions, and then there's, really bad pay-to-win levels. I think Blizzard squarely falls onto the harmless side of it. So, let's get into this discussion. First up, we'll have, the thing that's usually talked about the most with WoW and microtransactions. Should a subscription-based MMO have microtransactions where you're already paying $15 a month to play the game? I think that really shouldn't matter if those microtransactions don't allow you to pay for power or, features of the game. Take some, actually, I don't really know how, I was going to say take Star Wars Online, for example. This is how I think it works. I haven't actually played the game, I just know some people who have, and I've watched videos on it. So, excuse me if I'm very ignorant on this subject. But from my understanding, the Star Wars MMO is free to play, but you can pay to unlock basic features of the game. Or to have a better bag space, or, imagine if you could play WoW for free, but if you did, you only ever gained 50% experience while leveling up, you couldn't have more backspace than the default bag, and you could only go to one zone per, things of levels. Very restricted. You could pay, to unlock the rest of the world, or pay to, double your XP gains, i.e. gain the normal amount of experience, or, pay to unlock more bag spots. If they had a subscription model, and then had those kinds of things on top of it, yeah, that would be bad. That's terrible. As it is now, you pay the subscription, you get everything in the game, and then the microtransactions are just for cosmetics, which is, the best way to do it. So I won't have a blanket statement and say, sure, WoW can have all the microtransactions at once. I don't care. Because I do care. It's just, at what degree. The degree they have it now is great, because honestly, you can just pay gold to buy WoW tokens and get everything on the store without having to spend any of your money. Someone else does that. Now, to give some context to some other games I've played in the past, games by actual bad companies that are just trying to get as much money from their players as possible, I have a couple of examples here. This will be more interesting to talk about than, World of Warcraft's harmless microtransactions. So, there's this mobile game I play. I play mobile games, 2 of them mainly, and in this game, it's an idle battler called Idle Heroes. Basically, you just get a team of 6 people. Each character on your team can have 6 equipment slots, and you can send them into the arena to fight against opponents, or a whole bunch of PvE stuff. My favorite thing on that is to create a team which is really good against boss battles, where you have 15 turns in order to do as much damage as possible. I think that's fun, but I also have to compete in everything else in order to get enough materials for it. And in the arena is dominated by CC chain abilities. Basically, some heroes can stun your opponent's entire team, and there's just so many stuns. And there is a piece of equipment you can buy. It's like a trinket in WoW. You can equip it to one of your characters, and it basically just makes them immune to stuns. That's its effect. There are no other trinkets in the game like it. There's another trinket, which can reduce the chance you'll be affected by a CC, but that one is also just as difficult to get. So let me explain to you how to get this amazing stun immune trinket. I did the math on it just to see, because I was curious. So every week they have a new event, and in this event, you can do a couple of activities to get some currency exclusive tokens, kind of like in WoW, where you do like the Love is in the Air holiday and you'll get like the lovely charms, which you can use to then buy stuff from the vendors. So in this event, the maximum amount of this currency you can get is 2,200 from not having to pay any real money. But they also have deals, quotation marks, on the store, where you can buy normal stuff, things that let you buy more heroes and equipment and stuff. And they'll also give you a little bit of this special holiday currency. And since the max amount you can get for free is 2,200, this trinket can only be bought during this special event, and the trinket itself costs 3,600 of this currency. It doesn't seem too bad. You only need like another 1,400 more if you get the maximum amount. I didn't get the max amount though, because it's kind of difficult to get the max amount. It's much more easier to just get like 2,000 of the currency. So I'm going to be working off of that value. So with having 2,000 of this currency, I went onto the store and I did the math to see how much real money I'd have to spend to get that last 1,600 in order to buy this one trinket. And the math came out to exactly $300. The best value you could get is to buy the $99.99 pack, which would give you 600 of the currency. And that was the most you can get for the bang for your buck. And the next cheapest one, or the most expensive one, didn't give anywhere near as much. So if I bought that one packet 3 times, it would give me 1,800 of the currency, 200 more than I needed. But buying one of the lesser ones wouldn't give me enough either. You'd have to buy this one packet 3 times. So $300 in order to get enough currency to buy this one stun immune trinket. And there's no other way to get this trinket. You can only get it during these special events. And it's really good. Like, being immune to stuns would be a really good addition to one of your characters. It would give you so much more flexibility in PvP. But it only applies to one of your characters. You have 6 characters. So, it's only one piece of equipment. It's not that valuable, but you'd have to spend $300 to get it, because there's no other way to get it. And there is another item that can also help with PvP, where it will reduce the chance you can be CC'd by 50%, which is really good because most of the stuns have around a 25 to 50% chance to do it anyway. So you'd be basically immune to most, CC effects, which is also good. And this is also a trinket. And the only way to get this trinket is either through special holiday events, like once or twice a year, or by hitting VIP level 10, which requires you to spend thousands of dollars into the game, and it is not possible to get for a free-to-play player. So the only 2 pieces of equipment which allow you to resist stuns are pay-to-win items, and they're not cheap either. So there's many more problems with this game than having the stun immune trinkets, but that's kind of the gist of it. In World of Warcraft, they don't have pieces of equipment like that. Like, worst it gets is maybe you can spend a lot of money on WoW tokens, to get gold, and then you can use that gold to buy BOEs off the auction house, to get a temporary boost in power above everyone else until everyone else is, like at the beginning of a raid here. That's kind of what Method did for BOD. They spent a whole bunch of gold, they went like 100 million gold in debt in order to buy all of the best BOE gear off the auction house of like 2 servers in order to completely gear up their tunes, to give them every edge possible. And then that gear wasn't anywhere near as valuable or worth doing, like a month later. They only wanted it for that 1 week. So over time, eventually you can just get that gear by raiding normally. Whereas in my game with the idle heroes and stuff, over time you're just never going to get those pieces of equipment unless you pay lots of money. Real money. You can't get it in game. There's just no way to do it. So, that's just like example 1. It's a pay-to-win game, and that's just a pretty good example of how bad the pay-to-win is in it. Example number 2. Hearthstone compared to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. So, I don't know how many of you know this or not, but I actually have 2 successful YouTube channels. One of them is the World of Warcraft channel, which probably most of you came to this one from. And then I also have a Yu-Gi-Oh! Channel called the Duel Logs. which does very well for itself, where if the WoW channel died, I'd still be able to do YouTube full-time because of how well the Yu-Gi-Oh channel is doing. So, I'm really into Yu-Gi-Oh, and I play the only official Yu-Gi-Oh app called Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. Now, the business model in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links is actually, not a half bad one when it comes to mobile games. But if you compare it to something like Hearthstone, another Blizzard game, in Hearthstone, people love to complain about how much money you have to pay in order to unlock a full, really good deck. It's understandable because otherwise you'd have to just play a lot in order to get the gold in game. But the system in Hearthstone is every single card has a rarity, and every single card can be disenchanted, based on the rarity. So like a common card, it costs like 40 dust to create, and if you disenchant it, you get 1/4 of the dust cost. So if you disenchant a common card, you'll get like 10 dust, but if you disenchant a legendary card, you get 400 dust. And so on and so on. And you can use dust to create any card in the game. Except for a couple of ones that you can only get through achievements, I think. And those are from the classic set, and I don't think you can actually use those in standard anyway. So, like 99.9% of cards in Hearthstone, you can obtain by just creating them with dust, which you can obtain from disenchanting any card. Pretty reasonable system. In Yu-Gi-Oh! In Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, they have cards, that you can only get through in special events, and only during those special events. And once that special event is gone, you can no longer obtain that card ever again. So if you miss the event and you want to play a deck that has those cards, you can't get them. If you want to buy, a card that's a whole bunch of staple cards that do really good in like all your decks, they're usually sprinkled about a whole bunch of packs in the game as like ultra rares. And you have to, buy packs from that box. And every box, every pack has 3 cards in it. And the box will have something like 200 packs in order to purchase all of them. And in order to buy 5 packs, it's like $5. So it's like $1 per pack, roughly. And if you want 3 copies of like an ultra rare card, you're going to have to reset the box 3 times, which could entail purchasing about 500 packs. So, $500. But the game does give you lots of gems in order to buy those. You can play it free to play, it just takes a really long time. It's just, if you have multiple copies of cards, there is an option to disenchant them. And when you do, you get materials which you can use to buy cards from a store that only sells specific cards that you can only get from that store. So you can't use the disenchanted materials to craft any card you want. You can only buy specific cards from this one store from disenchanting your cards. So the way to get cards is much more complicated and convoluted and time-consuming and requires lots of money if you want to get the deck you want immediately without having to play the game for like a couple of months first in order to get it for free to play. Because there is no system in game to just create the cards you want. You have to get lucky and get them through a pack, or you have to get them during the special event. You just can't create them. So I think Hearthstone system is really good. You can just buy a whole bunch of packs, disenchant the cards, and just make whatever cards you need for a deck. That's amazing. That's not standard practice. It's such a good business model. And people on the Hearthstone subreddit hate the business model. They think it's terrible and that Blizzard is just a greedy company who hates their video games. I mean, it's fine. I don't really want this to be like in defense of Blizzard. It's more of a Blizzard's microtransaction models are some of the fairest ones I've seen. I guess I can go into this third example. It's not really too drastic like the first two. So like the first MMO I was really into was this online game. It was a browser-based MMO called Fallen Sword. And you could only, there was quests in the game, but you'd see one quest every 20 levels or so. You were not leveling up through quests. You leveled up in the game by killing monsters, and you would just move around the map area until you found a monster, then you'd kill it. You get experience. The only way to level up was to grind monsters. And the game didn't have a level cap, but since it wasn't MMO, you could just grind monsters for as long as you want, as long as you had the energy to use it, because you had like an energy meter, and every time you moved, it would take up one of your energy. Every time you attack something, it would take up energy. So like the most efficient way to level was to have pieces of equipment which would allow you to win the fight in one hit. Because you didn't want the battle to last multiple hits, because it was like a turn-based game. Otherwise, you'd use up too much energy, and you would really drastically decrease how you can level up in the game. So you could only level up for as much energy as you had for the day, and it would refill slowly over time. So basically, you log on once a day, and you'd grind out monsters until you used up all your energy. Then you'd stop for the day, and then do other things on the game, because they had like PvP and auction house and stuff. But they also had a microtransaction store, and there was no level cap on the game. So what some whales would do, this is what we call people who spend thousands of dollars onto these games, is there was an option in the store to immediately refill your energy bar, and other options to permanently increase the size of the energy bar. So some people would just spend thousands of dollars to keep grinding to be the highest level in the game. And eventually they would just stop spending money once they were at a high enough level where no one else could really catch up to them. Because, technically, since there was no level cap, you could just keep spending money as much as you want and level up as high as you wanted. And there were definitely people who took that challenge. You could not reach those highest levels of people without spending thousands of dollars. It was not possible because of the system of the game. So that's why when I first played WoW and I found out you could grind as much as you wanted, I was blown away. I was like, you mean I can kill monsters for as long as I want? What is there to stop me from playing this game all day then? That's crazy. There has to be some kind of limit to it. And I was just so surprised that if I wanted to, I could just kill monsters all day without stopping. And I was like, that's insane. How do they stop people from playing this game all day then? And that's kind of the thing with WoW. That is why a lot of people did. They would just play WoW all day. And it was so amazing. And there was all these quests to do. And I was so not used to doing quests. Because they existed in Fallen Sword. It just wasn't something you did to level up with. So I did grind a lot. I didn't do a lot of quests at first, and then I finally figured out quests gave a lot of experience, and that there was a lot of them. And so I started doing quests, and that was how I started to get into WoW. I was just so perplexed about so many things compared to Fallen Sword, which was, like, I didn't know how bad Fallen Sword was until I played WoW and saw that, you could do everything in-game. You didn't have to spend any money. You just paid to play the game, and then you got everything in the game by doing things in the game. And it was, a lot of fun. And I love that system. And I guess this all kind of relates back to the main topic of this. Should WoW have microtransactions? That's kind of a catchy title, a marketable one to get people to watch the video. And in my opinion, no, it shouldn't have bad ones like the games I just talked about. Because those games are really bad. Like, even the Yu-Gi-Oh game, it's considered a good business model compared to most mobile games. Because you can eventually get all the cards you want. It just takes a really long time compared to something like Hearthstone. And in WoW, there's no endless level cap where you can just keep paying money to level up. Or there's no pieces of equipment which you have to spend $300 for. Otherwise, there's literally no other way to get them. And people talk about, the cash shop as if it does have those kinds of things. Like, Hyperbolo. They go crazy about it. It's like, I can't believe, they added another mount to the cash store. Slippery slope. Eventually, they're just going to let you pay for raid tiers or whatever. That is definitely a concern, but it's baseless. Like, the slippery slope is also considered a fallacy for a reason. You can't just say, them adding cosmetics to the cash shop means they're going to add straight up power buys like in these other games. Because they haven't done that before. Like, if they start adding small power increases, like even the skins in the mobile game I play with the stun trinket, like, they have cosmetic skins, But even the skins give you combat upgrades. Like, they'll give you 5% more health or, like 5% more attack power. They're really good combat upgrades, where even if you don't like the skin, you want to wear it because it increases the power of your characters. And, Transmog doesn't do that. There's no benefit from buying any of the mounts on the store. There was a case to be made, though, in Wrath of the Lich King when the Sparkle Pony came out, because that did legitimately give some game upgrades, because that used to be mailed to all of your characters, and it's scaled up with your level. So there was tons of people riding Sparkle Ponies around, because you could use it at level 20, and when you hit max level, or like level 60 or 40, and you get the 100% flying, 100% run speed, it would just scale from 60 to 100%, which other mounts didn't do at the time. And it could fly once you hit Outlands, which other mounts, obviously, didn't do that. You could use the amount throughout the entire game, and you could use it on all of your ults, because it got mailed to them, which you couldn't do with any other mount in the game. Like, there were some legitimate concerns with that. Eventually, though, they made all of the Sparkle Pony things baseline to all mounts, except for them being able to fly, of course. And no one really cares anymore. It's purely cosmetic shit. There's much better mounts you can get in the game. And they also have really good looking mounts you can get in the game that aren't on the shop. That's another thing. People, will say they spend all of their art assets on the mount shops, even though some of the best looking mounts aren't obtained from the mount shop. But then again, fair is fair. They do spend a lot of time on those as well, and they do look good. And that's what gives them their value, is they do look good. And if you do want, you can buy them with gold in-game. Like, it's not a closed-off circuit. The only way you can get some of these items in the other games I described was literally by spending money, and that's it. In WoW, you can convert gold into WoW tokens in order to buy these mounts. Or pets. And even the pets. Like, I am a pet expert, and of all of the pets on the cash shop, only 3 of them are good. And there are much easier pets to get in-game, which are way better. Like, you don't need to buy any of those 3 good pets, because there's like 30 other pets you can get in-game that are like just as good or better and much easier to get. If anything, they're just, like cosmetics to an extent. I can't really think, like Little Ragnaros, he's good in everything, but there are so many pets better than him. Blossoming Ancient, he's really good in a specific type of team that no one likes, but there's another pet in the game which can do exactly what it does, so you don't need it. And then there's like Twilight, which is just a decent shadow pet user, which there are, like the common crow that you can find anywhere on the world does exactly what it does. Like, there's no real distinction other than like a couple of flavor things with them. None of the pets are pay to win. Like, pretty much every there's a better, easier to get pet in the game which does what they do but better. And then there's toys and like helms, and there's no power increases. That's the thing. Once they start adding that, then I'll hop on the skepticism train. It'll be like, ooh, a small power increase that you can only get through the cash shop? Ooh, I don't know about that. That's not good. Or, even loot boxes, that's more of a gray area. In my opinion, there's some people who are just completely anti-loot boxes in general. And, I can't really disagree with a lot of their points. It is basically gambling to an extent, which really shouldn't be in video games. But it really, I don't know. I'm not going to really touch loot box stuff, because I think there are a couple of games that do it okay. Like Overwatch, the only way to get cosmetic skins in that game is through loot boxes, but you can also craft anything you want as well. Unless it's during a special event, in which you can just craft it during that special event. So I like systems like that. You can buy random shit, and then you just disenchant them, and then you can create whatever you want. That's a really good system to have, and pretty much all Blizzard's games have that system. Like, when it comes to a cash shop, Blizzard has one of the best ones I've seen. So when I see people complain about them as if it's the end of the world, I think they've probably never played an actual bad game with a cash shop before. Then again, that's not to discredit the people who have legitimate complaints about it as well, which, I don't know. What are legitimate complaints? There shouldn't be a cash shop in a game if it has an MMO subscription at all. I guess that's a legitimate complaint. One that I don't really agree with, because, it really depends on the degree of the cash shop. But I could totally see that as a legitimate complaint nonetheless. With all that rambling done, here comes the discussion part. What do you think about WoW's microtransaction store? Or, their cash shop? Or Blizzard's cash shop in general? And how bad do you think it is? Is it the worst thing ever? Like, more rage-filled YouTubers would lead you to believe? I remember when they put the boat mount on the cash shop. Belluer made a very angry tweet about it. It was like, why would you post something so controversial yet so brave? It's ridiculous. It gets views though. You can't really blame him for it, but also I think it's completely overblown because there isn't really a precedent for them abusing the cash shop. They have, literally, if I was going to explain to someone, a good example of how to do a cash shop correctly, I generally use Blizzard games for that. But I am curious about your guys' opinions on this. I usually get some really good feedback from this. Sometimes it even changes my perspective on these kinds of things. Currently, my stance is it's not a big deal, and I don't think the slippery slope thing really applies. It's more in the fallacy sense when it comes to the Blizzard cash shops. But, I'd love to hear your opinions on it nonetheless.